Welcome to the Stones of Strength podcast, an audio plinth upon which we will endeavor to centralize and showcase stories and information related to lifting historical and non-historical stones and the ongoing development and re-emergence of stone lifting culture. Welcome to episode 24 of the Stones of Strength podcast. We had a fantastic chat with Alyssa Ages, who is someone that has had a massive impact on stone lifting and the spreading of the good word of stone lifting culture through involvements such as writing about David Keown in GQ. She featured in part our Edmonton Stones of Strength crew in Globe and Mail, which is a international newspaper. She's also done a fantastic job of highlighting not just the benefits and the wonders of stone lifting in her book, but also talking about the importance of the history and honoring and that history. And as you'll hear, she wanted to do more. She essentially said she had enough material to almost write a second book just about stone lifting. It didn't quite fit into the arc of what she wanted to convey in her book, but she's just a wealth of knowledge. She's such a cool person, very articulate, great sense of humor. We had an awesome time chatting with her. But before we get into that, we wanted to go through some community news. Well, we'll workshop that. Yeah, community news.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to David Horn. I don't know if many people exactly know who David is, but I've mentioned him a number of times throughout the different podcast episodes, and he is a legendary man of strength from the UK. And David is a strength historian, a strength advocate, and just an incredible wealth of knowledge and a great guy. And so he is hosting the Stones of Steel competition. Now, he did it, I believe it was 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago now. And the cool thing about Stones of Steel is for people like us who have, a meter of snow on the ground. For you Americans, that's like 3 feet in freedom units of snow. And so all of our stones are buried. And so what this allows you to do is it is an international competition where everything will be weighed on camera. It's as fair and accurate as anything can be, and it allows people to train for something when it is winter. And so it's composed of 3 lifts. There is the flat disc deadlift to 8 inches, the flat disc deadlift and walk, it's 15 meters, and a bear hug deadlift to 8 inches. And it's all done through video online. So if that interests you whatsoever, check out David Horn World of Grip on Instagram, and I'm sure lots of things will be being posted coming up because that runs from February 1st to March 31st. So you have an opportunity to get a ton of lifts in, a ton of work in, and basically shoot your best shot at that.
I think what's really cool about that competition as well is it's highly regulated, but it leaves it up to the individual to enforce those regulations. Like you have to show the measuring and the weighing and the lift all in a single, there's no cut scenes, all in a single take. He wants to make sure it is an honest, fair competition.
Yes.
And if anyone wants to take a run at the king over here for his flat disc deadlift, lift and walk, take a look at David's his submission last year. He currently holds a record on that lift. So
yeah.
All the best to anyone who's out there who's going to compete, because again, it's a great, whether you're in the States or in Canada or Scotland or Greenland, if it's cold where you are, it's a great opportunity for you to get some lifts in.
Another really cool thing coming down the pipe, February 7th is the Stone Annihilator. And this is a really neat thing. This is run by Ryan Stewart. And it's a stone lifting competition from my understanding. But the thing that I'm most stoked for is Ryan Stewart and Big Ben are going head to head. And from, again, my understanding, this is the first time in North American history, that something like this will be held. So I do not think that there will be a live stream, but keep your eyes peeled on Stu Squatch, Ryan Stewart's page, and Big Ben's page, because I think there's going to be some amazing lifting coming out of this. And those are two of the best in the world at what they do.
They're going head to head for a set time limit, stone to shoulder, right?
Yeah, I think they get 3 minutes per implements, and they're doing 4 implements with only 15 minutes in between each, which is just
annihilator.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
So they're going to be doing the rectangle, that's 275 pounds, cylinder 275, cube 250, and an Atlas 220. And yeah, I'm just double checking my notes here, and it's 3 minutes on each and only 15 in between. It's going to be gross. So shout out to those two.
Yeah, two of the best in North America at those Basque style lifts, and guys that undoubtedly will go out on their shields. They're going to put everything, even just seeing some of the clips from their training, like they are not They're not pulling any punches. They are
No.
going to be going. I think they had said that they are intending to kill each other.
Yeah, sure.
You know, in the most friendly, competitive way possible.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that both of them are going to be willing to go to the bitter ends to win. I mean, it's
Super cool. Really cool stuff, guys. It's awesome to see.
Awesome. Something else we wanted to shout out there. So there's a gentleman named Nick and his wife, or wife to be, on Valentine's Day this year, Fee. And Nick came onto our radar when Maximum Iron was putting out the call for nominations for their stone lifting awards. And he repeatedly came up in the comments as someone who was more than worthy of getting the most inspirational stone lifter. So we took a look at his page and sort of started to dig into his story, and come to find out this is a man who has really spent a very large part of his life battling. So he's a combat veteran, and he's also, you know, he's a Denny stone lifter. He was in the top 5 at Arnold's, just an incredibly strong person, you know, a competitive strongman. But now he's in many ways in the biggest battle of his life. He's currently battling cancer, and pardon me, getting a little emotional talking about this. He and his wife are setting the goal for their honeymoon to go around Scotland and lift stones. So Fee also lifts as well, but she's never lifted a stone. So it will be her first time lifting a stone on this honeymoon that they're taking through Scotland. And Nick's goal is to lift the end of her stone. And so that's a hard stone, regardless of any external factors, but to be able to maintain and have the strength to lift that stone while also battling this disease is incredible. And number one, we want to wish the two of them, but I don't know, you know, whenever this episode comes out, you'll either be just about to be married or you'll be married. Congratulations on that and all the best on your trip. But I do also want to put the call out to the stone lifting community that if you do have the financial means to support the fundraiser that Nick is doing a lot of this training and this tour in support of, which is called, and there's a link to it on Nick's page. It's hosted on www.justgiving.com, and it's a fundraiser to raise money for combat stress and to support veterans who are battling with PTSD. So it's a fantastic way to support both Nick and Fee on their journey, as well as to support a very, very worthy cause. But the other thing I'm putting out the call to, and this is particular to anyone who's in Scotland, is to be able to, if you can, reach out to Nick and offer up support by way of gear. Like they need some support in getting proper gear to be using. I mean, even it's going to be quite cold. So if you have extra coats or things to offer up, chalk, mats, just anything as far as material items that you can provide to them that you think would be beneficial to them on their trip, please do reach out to Nick. I think it's an absolutely fantastic way to come together as a community to support two people that very much are deserving of having a fantastic experience. Yeah. And so again, that's Nick Wintle. He's big.wince on Instagram. So please do reach out and offer up support in any way, even if it's just to say, hey, all the best. If you have the financial means to support in other ways or additional material or kit, and you're in Scotland and can provide that to them, please do so. And just from both of us to you two, congratulations and have a fantastic trip. We're actually going to be having both Nick and Fee on the podcast when they get back from their trip to be able to discuss the fantastic journey that they have had. So best of luck to both of them. Okay, on to our guest for this episode, Alyssa Ages. Just want to take the opportunity to again thank her for the work that she's done in shining a light on the stone lifting community. The fact that she was able to reach out to David Keown and put together this incredible article in GQ magazine. I mean, having stone lifting showcased in GQ is
wild.
I know David he couldn't comprehend that was actually happening. Yeah. When he got contacted with the article and we were chatting with him, he's like, I can't believe GQ, like this is the magazine. And the work that she did, newspapers and her book, like it's so wonderful having an advocate like that has the skills and the talent to be able to convey stone lifting in such an articulate and respectful way. And so we're very thankful for her input and the support that she's shown to us personally, as well as the greater stone lifting community. But it was just such an honor to be able to have her on the podcast to make sure that those of you who listen to this really understand who she is. You can reach out and thank her in your own way for what she's done to help raise awareness for stone lifting. So without further ado, our guest for episode 24 of the Stone to Strength podcast, Alyssa Ages. Welcome to episode 24 of the Stones of Strength podcast, where David and I are very, very excited to welcome our guest, Alyssa Ages. Alyssa, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Your list of accolades, both in the strength world, but also outside of the strength world, are numerous. And, you know, as we have here, you've written a fantastic book diving into why it is that we as human beings seek to do the difficult and find joy in strength and gaining strength. And so that's definitely something we want to talk about. But maybe let's back up and start at the beginning with your origin story into athletics and how that evolved into competing, you know, at nationals in strength sports.
Yeah, so I was like not an athletic kid. None of this has come naturally to me. I tell this story that I had to play Little League baseball when I was a kid. And I remember very clearly, like, just not being good at it, just never hitting the ball, and, you know, earning the VIP game ball in one just for being hit with the ball and getting like an automatic walk in first base. And I sort of carried that with me for like the next, I don't know, like decade of my life, with this idea that I was just this inherently non-athletic person. And so I just avoided it as much as humanly possible. And then I had just graduated university. I was in my first real job and I had to play a corporate softball game. And I was like, oh my God, all the stuff is flooding back to me about how I felt about this as a kid. And I remember I went up to bat and I hit the ball and I got on base. And like the first thing I did when I could was I called my mom about it. And I was like, oh my God, you know, after all of those like childhood swings and misses in baseball, like I finally hit the ball. And there's this pause in the other end of the line. And she goes, it's great, but it's not that you never hit the ball. Like you never swung the bat. You would just stand there in like frozen with fear at the plate and just like watch the ball go by. And I remember just being this moment of going, oh, I've sort of told myself this story for the last 10 years that maybe isn't actually true. Maybe I might be able to do some of this stuff. And I made this decision that I was going to just try everything. And the first thing I did was I decided I was going to run a marathon, having like maybe never run a mile outside of gym class. And I trained for it. And I did it and I went on to do a bunch of them. And then I was like, okay, what's next? I'm going to do a triathlon. I could not swim a lap in the pool. Taught myself how to do that and ended up doing a bunch of those and doing an Ironman. And then kind of came out the other end of that and went, okay, well, I've done the endurance stuff. I don't want to do an ultra marathon. What are we doing now? And I joined a CrossFit gym. And I really liked that. I was like, oh, this is so different. The cardio is such a small element of it. And I like that I leave feeling like I've done something really new and that makes me feel incredibly capable in my body. And I had this friend in the 6:30 a.m. class and she said, you know, you should come with me. On the weekends, I go to this Strongman gym and they do like beginner group classes. And I was like those guys on ESPN?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to carry a refrigerator uphill on my back? Because that did not go well for that one dude. And she was like, no, come do it with me. And I went. And the apropos for this podcast, one of the first things I lifted was just like the smallest Atlas stone they had, a 90-pound Atlas stone. And I remember the goal was to get it like up to my shoulder. And the first time I picked it up, I couldn't get it past maybe like my hips. And I was like, this is really hard. And I put it down and I got some instruction on what to do. And I went for it again and I got it up onto my shoulder. And I remember this moment of having it up there and going, oh my God, like, this is one of the hardest things I've done and the most just invigorating and exciting things that I've done. And this is all I want to do now. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I signed up with the trainer that day and I signed up for a competition that day. And I've not looked back in 10 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Talk about not really easing into things, right? You went from feeling like you had no athletic potential to, you know, a single hit in a corporate softball game to signing up for a marathon. And then you jumped and did Ironmans. And so, yeah you've kind of thrown yourself wholeheartedly into this pursuit of fitness and strength.
100%. It just feels like feeling strong was so different than the feeling of just being able to, I don't know, run an extra mile.
Yeah.
It was so much more exciting to me as soon as I started doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like incremental gains with the strength, right? Because week over week, you can add a plate, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, all of that. And, Dale's done 5 Ironmans. I'm the only person in my family that hasn't done an Ironman and did a half Ironman, but it just didn't click with me. Running a little bit further, or having the 50-kilometer bike being a bit easier, that didn't do much for me. But the very measurable gains that you get week over week is fantastic with strength. And at least unlike cardio, it's fantastic to know that you're capable of working hard for a long time. But like you'd mentioned, you just feel different when you're stronger.
You do. Yeah. It was I interviewed somebody for the book who talked about this. Oh, it was Colin Bryce who said it's like compound interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Where it's like it's those little incremental gains each time where it's like, hey, you're not starting from 0.0 every time. You're just going a little bit more.
Speaking of Colin Bryce and touching on the book, so your book is titled "The True Meaning of Strength: Secrets of Giants." Did you jump into the pursuit of strength and strength sports and strongmen in particular, hoping that at some point you would reach a level where you'd be able to facilitate writing a full-blown book? Or was this something that as you dove into the strength world, you realized that this is more than just about physical exertion and being the biggest and strongest in the room? There's a deeper culture and community around strength that is something that needs to be celebrated, because it's not often seen when you see big hulking grunting people on the TV screen. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah. So no, I didn't. I mean, this was 2014 when I started. So over a decade ago. And at the time it was this is just something I'm really enjoying doing. And it wasn't until it was COVID. It was the year I was turning 40 and I had 2 kids. And was kind of like, oh, I'm finally at this point where I can like do physical things with my body where I don't have to worry about someone else's safety.
Mm-hmm.
I can pick up a big rock and not worry that I'm going to like crush something.
Yeah.
And I just was like, okay, if I'm going to go back into this, I'm going to go back into this big. And I was like, I want to pull a truck. It was like one of those strongman things that I hadn't done yet that I really wanted to do. And so I started looking out for a competition that had a truck pull. And there was a bit of kind of a like fate element to it. The one that I found was through a gym that I had gone to in New York Strong. And they had their New York Strongest competition. And I had been signed up for that competition 5 years earlier. I would have been doing a truck pull. And I had a miscarriage pretty early in my pregnancy and would have been probably safe to do that competition, but I just didn't have the emotional capacity to train for it. And then I hadn't competed for those following 5 years while I was having kids and, nursing and all of that kind of stuff. And when I saw that was the comp that was coming up that had a truck pull, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And that was how I jumped back in. And it was in making that decision that I had this idea to write a book about this, because I realized, strength had always been something I cared about for that last 10 years. But when I was kind of going through the aftermath of having a miscarriage and going through some of the stuff with fertility, one of the few things that really helped me and really made me feel like I could kind of handle all of this difficult stuff was going into the gym and lifting heavy things and just having that daily reminder that like there's a lot of hard stuff you're dealing with, but you can also do all these other hard things too. You're not just incapable. And that was when I decided I wanted to write a book about it.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's funny you mentioned truck pull. That was the very first event of my very first strongman competition as well. It was a gigantic rock pulling truck here. And that's such a grueling event.
But it's so cool. It's so undeniable. Everyone can, you tell somebody you deadlifted, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds on a barbell. And if they don't deadlift, they don't really know what that feels like or what that means, right? But you say a truck and everyone inherently has a sense of like, that is a big, big, heavy object.
Yeah.
that you
it is.
have to move.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, people don't
Um,
understand the difficulty around the feet of a log press unless, like you said, like they've done
yeah.
that. But everyone knows a truck is massive, and when it's immovable, right? Unless it's powering itself. And I think too, the
Yeah.
other thing that's great about those type of events is that they allow you to show your strength, but also something you talk about a lot in your book is grit, because you need to have both of those things in order to be successful in strength sports. You're going to be having the physical battle, but then there's also the mental battle too. I know you had mentioned in your book there was a number of times where you got it to move and then it stopped moving, and then you had to pull and try to get it restarted, which is way harder than keeping it going. And there's sort of that constant effort.
Yeah, it really is. It's like when it stops, do you have the mental fortitude to keep going? And I feel like you'll resonate with this, but just like endurance sports really taught me a lot of that mental strength of like, you have to get into that pain cave and then sit in that pain cave and be cool with that,
Yep.
because otherwise you're just going to quit.
Yeah.
Right. And especially with strength sports, it's like, sometimes the immovable object doesn't move. Sometimes your strength is just not there that day. Like I could force an extra mile because I could walk,
Right.
but you can't force the weight over your head or the stone up from the floor, whatever it is, if the strength isn't there that day. And so it's some of that's the ability to go, it's not there today, but it's not gone.
Yeah. There's no cruise control in strength sports, like you said. And endurance, you can slow pedal on the bike, or you can get off, walk a bit, or you can walk between aid stations or something like that and recuperate. But that's not happening when you've got a barbell midway up your shins. And
No, I feel like the only place in strength sports where you can maybe get into like a flow state with that is like a static hold,
right.
like a static former hold or something, where you just go into like a dark place and you just stay there.
As someone who did the endurance sports and then transitioned to strength sports, have there been some of those mental tools, and like you said, where you get into a flow state and you enter the pain cave, that you developed in endurance sports that you apply to strength sports as well?
Yeah, I think some of that is just that feeling of this sucks.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. And there was actually this one I come back to a lot. There was a sign. I did like some training at the Lake Placid Ironman course. It's not the one that I did, but we did some training out there. And there's a sign on the course that says, you can quit. No one will care, but you'll always know.
Yeah.
And I think about that, and I have thought about that a ton. It's like, you're in the middle of this just absolute suck fest.
Yes.
And it's like, absolutely, like you have free will. You can stop doing this. And again, no one else will care about it beyond this moment, but you will remember that you didn't do that. I remember, like, I still think about one competition I was doing where we had to do, it was like a Husafel replica carry, but it was like one of the metal ones. And the implement was so different from the one I had in my gym. And I like couldn't wrap my head around the fact that it was the same weight and I just had to figure out how to lift it. And I had like gone to this space in my head where I was like, you can't do this. You can't do this. It's different. It's too hard. And guess what? I didn't do it. And no one that I know would remember that, but I think about it regularly.
Yeah.
Grit is an interesting thing because if I put some thought into the concept of strength sport and what makes a good athlete. And obviously there's so many elements to it, but I feel like you could almost break it down to three things that go into making a really good athlete. It's your strength, it's your technique, and it's your grit. Now, obviously there's much more than that, but like we're talking on a larger scale here. Now, generalized athleticism are things that many people can be born with. Techniques will come easier to some people. Strength, some people are naturally unbelievably strong. But I feel like grit is one of those things that you have to put the most work into, because I've seen extremely talented, extremely strong individuals lack grit. And guess what? There are things that they cannot do that people not as strong, not as athletic are able to do. And so I really like the discussion on grit for that reason, because you have to earn that. You have to earn grit by going into the pain cave, going to the dark place, and putting the time with discomfort in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah. And you have to choose it, right?
Sure.
Like you have to make that choice that this is something that matters to me. And I'm also going to work really hard to get there. Because it's something I talk to my kids about a lot. My older daughter has a tendency, like I did when I was younger, to go, I'm not immediately good at this, so therefore I'm not going to try because I don't want to try and then know what it feels like to fail.
Right.
And so it's this conversation we have to have regularly of like, well, no, you have to give it a shot. You have to, because you don't know whether or not you can do it until you try it.
Yeah.
It's a self-defense mechanism that's built in for a lot of us, right?
But
Yeah.
To your point,
exactly.
to your point, it's something that you can train to be able to move past. And I know when we were training for our Iceland trip and the Husafell carry, like the first time you get 320-pound Husafell trainer on your chest and it's crushing the wind out of you, everything in your mind and body is telling you to get this off of you because you feel like you are dying. And there's this fight or flight response, and you over time realize that you can lean into the fight. You don't have to give into the flight, and it's something that you can become comfortable with. You're going into the pain cave, right? It's just in a very different way where you're actually fighting this physical response that your body is trying to do as a preservation mechanism.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, even just in the techniques that we do, you have to choose the one that hurts a little bit more, like learning how to do like hook grip on, a Denise Stone replica. It's like, that is, you are absolutely choosing the worst option, like in terms of comfort.
Right.
It's awful. But if it depends, what matters to you more? Does it matter that you're comfortable for those couple of seconds you're holding it, or does it matter to you that you did the thing? And if it matters to you more that you did the thing, then you have to do the suckier version of it.
Yeah. And again, it's a lot of it is training your mind. During COVID, I did a deep dive into steel bending just so I could do competitions online. And it was awesome, bending horseshoes and all that kind of stuff.
You set a world record for snapping a horseshoe. So
actually, yeah, it was 5
he
years.
He really went deep. Yeah.
That was 5 years ago yesterday I did that, actually. But the point is you learn in steel bending because it hurts. Like a lot of strongman events, it is a very painful thing. And you have to train your brain, because obviously when you get those pain signals, your body wants to stop sending signals to the muscles saying, stop this, let's go into preservation mode. But you need to train your brain the difference between this hurts and am I getting hurt? And once you're able to acknowledge, yeah, this just hurts, I'm not getting injured, you're able to like take the governor off your body, so to speak, and really push further and further and further.
Yeah, I like that. Does this hurt or am I getting hurt? I really like that. One of the ones I do with my kids is if there's tears from like a fall or something, one of the first questions I ask, if I can see that they're not actively bleeding, is like, are you more hurt or are you more scared?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's different ways we're going to manage those two things.
Yeah.
We've both done the same with our kids where they fall and you're like, okay, that couldn't have hurt them. So you celebrate. Yeah, that was awesome. And if they're straight, how cool is that? You're bleeding, right? Like or
they fall down and they look around to see if you've seen it happen. You pretend like you didn't see it, and then they get up and they keep going. But if they saw that you saw them in that vulnerable position, they would just come over and cry and really want that comfort.
100%. Even my older daughter was like, I fell one time today skiing because we've been skiing, and I was like, good. That just all that tells me is that you took a risk.
Yeah.
Like you just did something that was a little bit harder, and so you fell. And like, are you okay? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. Fall more.
And in many ways, it's the art of learning to fall, right? Both figuratively and physically. When I wrestled growing up, that was one of the first things they teach you is how do you fall and keep yourself safe, because that's so important. You're preventing injury. And then you go, yeah, someone can pick me up and they can slam me down. I know I'm going to, probably lose this match, but I'm not going to get hurt, and I can get back up and I can kind of dust myself off and continue. And sort of on that, that topic of grit, and maybe grit is something that applies more to athletics, but I think it's just the general building of resiliency. I think that's something that as parents, we try to exemplify for our children, maybe through strength sports, but it's really teaching a greater life skill on that. As a father, the things that I want for my children are to be kind, to be capable, to be resilient and determined enough to be able to pick up any task on their own and be more autonomous and independent and get that sense of reward for completing a goal. And that's something that I know through strength sports, you've really helped nurture in your daughters.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing.
Yep.
My little one runs into walls, and like it's for the most part just kind of like bounces back and is fine. And my older one, it's a lot of like she carries a lot of fear and worry with her about what's going to happen if I do this.
Right.
And that is often what holds her back. So one of the things we work on is just like, okay, let's talk through it. What are you worried about? What are the concerns here? Okay, how can we work past those things enough that you try it, enough that you will give it a shot, and not be kind of sitting in that space of anxiety while you're doing it. It's challenging, and I think it's tough for me in particular because I grew up in that same frame of mind that she has of like, this is hard, I'm not going to try it. And it wasn't until adulthood that I was able to figure out a way past that. And so I kind of go, I think I have the ability to save her from like a decade of feeling like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It's tough as parents, right? Like you want something better for your kids than either how you were or what you had, or, you know, your situation.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to get to bring this up, because one of the things that I noticed that you did a fantastic job of in the book was you kind of brought the stories, the people, the personas, the personalities of the strength community to light. And from the outside looking in, you see a lot of big, burly people, often covered with tattoos, looking tough, maybe even looking mean at times. But most of them are the biggest, sweetest, kindest people you've ever met in your life. And you highlighted so many excellent strength athletes. And I'm just curious, as you'd mentioned that you signed up your first day in a strength gym for some coaching. Was this something that presented itself quite quickly, or did it take time for you to realize, wow, these guys and gals are all just the sweetest people ever?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first day walking into that Strongman gym, and like it's so vivid. I went up this elevator. It was in an office building, which is a hilarious place for a strongman gym.
It is.
Yes. Slamming stuff down on the ground. It's ridiculous. But I remember like the elevator door opened and I was just hit with this blast of like metal, like just metal music. And I was like, oh my God, do I get back in this elevator and go home? And there's like this I was like, where am I? What have I gotten myself into? There's this huge steel door in front of me with this like little, just like, you know, hastily printed sign with the logo of Global Strongman Gym. And I was like, I don't do like, and I went in and I'm walking, and the hallway is this like row of lockers. And at the end of the hallway is this desk, again, like a school principal kind of metal desk. And this guy behind it just stands up. His name is Hans. He's a wonderful, delightful human, but he is just towering over me. Huge guy, you know, thick Trinidadian accent. He was so intimidating in that first moment. And then immediately is like, hand out, shake my hand, like, let me take you around here and show you all this stuff. So it was like that real instant of like, you look terrifying to, oh, okay, like you're a really nice guy and you just want me to love this. And yeah, so it was a pretty quick transition in realizing that. And then to your point, like wanting to make sure that other people knew that too, to be able to tell those stories and to show, you know, not everyone has had major traumas in their life that have drawn them to this sport, but a lot of people have.
Yeah.
You know, it's this idea of building a certain level of strength that you feel like it's an armor.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a conversation I had with Nick Best about this, where he was talking about just something he'd gone through when he was younger and wanting to get strong enough that like nothing and no one could hurt him again. I think that's how a lot of people come to this. And then, you know, I think then once you're in it, you find the other things that you love about it. But I do think it's a big draw.
Yeah, that was something that really struck me about the book too, because from an outsider's perspective, and I've only been in the strength community since I started stone lifting. I wasn't previously a strongman athlete. Like I said, did Ironmans and kind of did nothing but gym bro stuff for about a decade, and then got introduced to stone lifting by David. And from the outside looking in, when you see some of these athletes in these competitions, you just go, okay, this is a dominant human being that has been so for the entirety of their life, but that's not always the case. A lot of the times people have come to strength seeking to move past something rather than moving towards a goal. They're actually trying to move away from something in their past. It's interesting that when you see the people that are the strongest human beings in the world, they're there because of a time when they probably felt like they were the weakest.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there was a single person that I met and interviewed who didn't have a story like that. Yeah. Everyone's coming from something like that. It was just like they need strength. It's not even a want. It's not a, you know, and maybe this would have been different if I interviewed bodybuilders,
Right.
right? Where like so much more of it is about aesthetics.
Right.
But when you make the choice to like do a sport where you're lifting jagged rocks and like, I don't know, a fire hydrant for fun, you're not necessarily in it for that strength related goal or that aesthetic goal at the beginning. You're in it for something else.
Yeah, it's not a flattering sport from an aesthetic side. Everyone's got the deadlift face at all times.
I just like so the amount of bruises I would have at the beginning, and I would walk into my like office job with my forearms just like covered, because you've got the ones in the crook of your elbow from the keg, and then the ones here from the stones, and it's just
Do we need to call somebody?
It's not
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's not the prettiest of sports.
Yeah,
but
it's not.
But I think that's why when you talk to some of those folks, they are so successful. And we've talked about this with respect to just stone lifting as well, as if you're not comfortable being humbled, this is not something that you're going to find enjoyment in, because you will be humbled. And so for a lot of these professional athletes, they're comfortable being humbled because they came into strength sports from the humblest of beginnings.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You have to be willing to fail and open to the idea of failure. And like I was not when I came into this sport, but you pretty quickly realize if this is something that you want to do, you're going to have to fail a lot. And I say this all the time, which is like you have no idea what your limit is until you have tried to do that and failed at it, right? Like you don't know, if you walk into a gym, you have no idea if you can lift 300 pounds on a barbell to deadlift. Like you don't know until you try 300 pounds and you can't get it. And then you go, okay, well, did I move it? How close was I? Okay, let's backtrack. Let's take some weight off. Let's see what it is. You don't know. And that goes for most things in life, but I think the gym is a really great training ground to learn that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So with respect to that as well, there was one story you told that I really like, because I think if anyone's been in strength sport, they can relate to this, but you discussed the warm up and how stressful it is and everyone trying to share everything. And you had some new figure 8 straps you were stoked on, and they didn't fit the axle bar. Cause of course you always find out afterwards that there's different sizes, and that's for a reason. But you mentioned a lady came up and lent you her figure 8 straps, and people started sharing equipment. And if anyone's done any strongman events, you see this happen, especially because so many events change sometimes the day of, right? And everyone's scrambling. And it's just such a cool environment. Like, cause I did some powerlifting before and then strongman, and there are definitely different vibes in those events. And in strongman, you comment about how the person you're competing against is slapping you on the back and cheering for you, because we just want to see everybody do the best they possibly can. Whether that knocks your placing down or not, you'll share your equipment with the guy you're competing against. And I just thought you did a great job of highlighting that, because I've been there, I've seen it, and it's just such a cool community in that strength world.
Yeah, I've never seen it anywhere else. It's really special that it's like, we all just want to see each other do well, but we also just want to see the limits of what the human body is capable of doing. And if I can't do that, if I can't, set that world record in this, I want to watch someone else do it. That's part of my interest in the sport. And I love that you see that even at the highest level in the sport, the guys are still sharing equipment if, one of their belts breaks or something. It's like, I don't want to beat you on your shittiest day.
Yeah.
I want to beat you on your best day, because that's the measure of, what my ability is. And yeah, that woman who lent me the straps, one of my first competitions, it was it's a trend with the Husafell replica. It was another thing with that where it was, again, different from the one I had in my gym. And this woman who I was competing against in my weight class, like, she didn't know if I was any good. She didn't know if I was going to beat her. She was like, oh, we're using the one from my gym. Come over here with me and I'm going to show you how we pick this one up.
Awesome.
It was just, that was a real moment of like, really? Okay. That's, how cool is this?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all bring tubs of stone tacky to share. Like I always bring a whole bottle of Goo Gone at competitions to help people afterwards. Like people bring snacks and they share them with each other. I think part of the reason is it's such a weird sport that we do, that there's such a small community.
Yeah, totally.
It's so niche. You know everybody and everyone's got a pretty good vibe about them.
Do you think some of it too comes from the fact that, yes, you are all sort of in competition for placings amongst each other, but a lot of people get into this because they want to see how strong they can be. And so at the end of the day, it's really them versus the implement. And so they're supporting everyone to do as best they can against that implement, and how you rank up against each other afterwards is secondary. They really want to just have the best effort and the best showing they can and conquer whatever's placed in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you obviously listen, you get people who are there because they want to be better than somebody else.
Yeah,
But like at the moment, I'm taking a little bit of break from competing, but I'm still training the same way for the most part that I was, because I still want to go, what can I put over my head in a log? Like I still want to know that. There's like this fear almost that if I don't compete, I'm going to lose some of that maximum strength and some of that ability to do these things. And I don't ever want to lose that, even if I don't want to do it in a competition setting, because yeah, some of that is just about my competition with myself,
Right.
just to be a little bit better than I was before. Like I have a max of 300 pounds on the deadlift. I don't ever want to have a day where like I can't deadlift 300 pounds. I don't want to have to build back up to that.
Yeah.
Something else that you also like I said, your book was excellent, and a lot of things as I'm listening to, I'm like, yeah, okay, right, like you nailed that. Is now this happens to me, and I don't know if it happens to everyone, but you have this goal, you work super hard for it, and you achieve it, and then you wake up the next day, and you go, I'm still the same person I was before I did that thing. Right. And I've noticed that, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, or if it's something wrong with me type thing. Like when we got back from Iceland and we trained super hard and we nailed these things and had a great trip. I'm like, that was one of the best experiences of my life. But I didn't come back a different person. It didn't fundamentally change who I was. But then after that, the mind almost starts spinning again. Okay, so what's next? Because when you are a goal-oriented person, you almost need that thing, that kind of like that light that you're going towards. Because for me, at least, it helps structure not my world necessarily, but my focus. It encourages me to sleep more, to eat better, to train harder. And so you mentioned a number of things, from marathons to Ironman to strength sports. So how have you found that has guided you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really similar. Like I always need to have a goal that I'm chasing. It doesn't have to be a competition. Right now, I have the really awesome goal of trying to beat my 6-year-old at pull-ups. She can do 4 and I can do 3. And I'm not kidding you, my entire training program is structured.
Does she know that? Like, is she amping things up too to be like, Mom's not going to beat me?
She knows, and she said to me, she goes, "Oh, if you can do 4 pull-ups, I'm gonna do 10." I was like, "Oh, okay." There has to be like, I don't do well without some sort of a goal in front of me, and I think that's the reason for it. It's you get to the top of one peak, and you go, "Oh, there's another taller one over there." Right. Mm-hmm. There's another one I could climb. Like you're not done. And I do think you get into a situation, a lot of people will sort of put all this weight on the one thing they're going to do. And then you do realize, this hasn't fundamentally changed who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. I'm not a better or different person for having done this. Maybe I'm a stronger person. There was, when I did that interview with Colin Brace, I remember so clearly, he said to me, it's like one of my favorite quotes from the book, was he said, "The world's strongest man is invariably somebody with a hole in his heart, because he thinks when he wins and he's crowned king of the world, he'll be, a totally different person. And then he wakes up the next day and finds out that he's just the same person as he was the day before." And I remember thinking at the time that he said that, I was like, well, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not winning competitions. But then when I finished nationals, I remember sitting in my hotel room and like I had been building towards this. It was the crux of my book. Like at the time, I was writing my book while training for nationals, and I was like, this is the crux. This is what my whole thing is about. And then it didn't necessarily go the way that I wanted it to. Some of the stuff did, and it was over. And I was like, what do I do now? I'm so lost. I don't have a second goal. And I lean on a lot of these experts that I've spoken to for this kind of stuff, but this was well after my book. But I remember having a conversation with Mitchell Hooper, and he said something really fascinating about goals that I loved, which was, you know, you shouldn't be scared of not hitting your goals. You should be scared of meeting them, because if you don't have anything else on the horizon, then what makes you get out of bed the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't. There isn't anything. So it's this idea of like, I'm going to work towards one thing, and I'm always going to have something else that's like just in the back of my head is the next thing I'm going to do, so that there's always something pushing you forward.
Yeah, you need to have that purpose. And I mean, it extends beyond strength sports too. And you just did an interview about strength, the importance of strength when you are aging. And I think whether it is strength or you're doing some kind of hobby, like having that purpose, something to drive you as well as to center you, is incredibly important at all ages, but even particular when you may not have other external factors feeding into how you organize and structure your day.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I have somebody close to me in my family who's older, who has said like, you know, I don't even have the strength right now to like open a water bottle.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a choice.
Right.
That's a choice. And I think people often, you know, you get to a certain age and you're like, there's a tendency to give up. Just like, this is the latter half of my life. And, you know, things just go downhill. And if things hurt, then they just hurt. And that's where they are. Mm-hmm. And that's brutal, you know, like there's so much that you can still do.
Yeah.
There's no point, at least I think that we know of, where you're not going to be able to build muscle anymore.
That's right.
My mom and my stepdad have both, you know, recently said to me like, hey, we want to do some strength training. I'm like, yes, great. We got in the gym, we walked through some of the basic, just like, you're going to get in there every day, or not every day. You're going to get in there twice a week. The days that you go in, you're going to do, you know, the ways that you move through the world. We're going to have you do a hinge movement and a squat movement and a lunge and a push and a pull and a rotation and anti-rotation. Like, and that's it. And if we structure that around that, all I'm doing for you right now is just helping you live better for longer.
Right.
That's it. Your goal is, we're not looking to compete. And I think, I don't know if you guys have this, but I will have people often say to me like, but I'm not going to do what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't need to. You just have to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever challenges your body, so that your body will change. It's not the same thing that I need to do. But as long as we're both challenging ourselves, we're both going to create some change.
Absolutely. And our parents are kind of in that boat as well with respect to getting to the gym, because they've done, I think, 25 Ironman between them.
More.
Is it more now?
Dad's 16 and mom was 14.
Is that what it's insane?
Wow.
And they go to Hawaii. They're both retired, but they go to Hawaii and they train. Their vacation is they'll go to Hawaii for 6 weeks and train 2 times a day. So they're still super athletes. But the point is they are now started to take up weightlifting a bit more in. They don't really have an off season because they train all year round. But the point is they're now seeing the value of putting on muscle and keeping them younger and healthier and safer too. Like I see people all the time at work as a firefighter that are not able to go about their day because they're too weak, right? They're not able to get the baseline functions because, I mean, obviously I'm excluding sicknesses in there, but people that have just not put the work in to stay healthy. And that's one of the major things as people age, is not being strong enough to go through the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, again, it's a choice, right? Like if you are able-bodied, whether or not you want to build muscle, you choose to build muscle, that is a choice that you're making. Mm-hmm. And you make that every day with whether or not you get up and go to the gym. And when you make that choice, if you make the choice not to, you're also making a choice that there are going to be things that you're not going to be able to do when you want to live independently as you get older. Right. And I don't want that. I don't want there to be things like, I recognize I'm not going to be deadlifting 300 pounds for the rest of my life. Right. Yeah. But I don't ever want to be in a situation where I can't pick up my grocery bags and carry them from the driveway into my kitchen.
Well, so 2 things on the Ironman side of things. The first race Ironman I did, I was my 18th birthday present, because we had watched my parents doing Ironman since I was 10 years old. And I was like, I want to do one. So my 18th birthday present was the race, an entrance fee for Ironman. And at the end of the event, they announced the youngest athlete, which was myself, and the oldest. And it was a 74-year-old lady whose name was Sister Madonna Buter. And I think it was her 40-something Ironman. And I have a picture. It's actually at my parents' house of me standing next to her. And in many ways, you allow yourself to age. Obviously, no one's going to live forever and you can't be physically capable, but you can really, really sort of slow the gears on that process by staying active. And you don't have to be doing Ironmans, but to your point, do something that suits the purpose for the kind of life that you want to live. And then the other thing, and maybe this was just a bit of a realization for me, is, we're talking about all these world-class strength athletes, and I'm not one of those, but coming from, a humble beginning or being comfortable and being humbled, I think I've just realized now for me that it was that all 5 years I did Ironmans, obviously my dad was a bit ahead of me out of the swim and then off on the bike and then running. I never saw him again. But I got passed by my mom in the same place every single year. So I did 5 Ironmans before I was 25, every single year. Hi, sweetheart, looking good. Boom, gone. And the people on the sidelines are like, is that your mom? Like they see 18, 19 written on the back of my calf. And I'm like, well, you're sitting in a chair. Like, give me a bit of a break. Like, it's just the thing that we've been very fortunate to have that sort of example set for us by our parents. It's really encouraging to see that it's now becoming more widespread and a more widely spread discussion that as you get into older age, strength training is beneficial. I mean, if you don't manage the load properly, you can hurt yourself. But if you ease into things, it's really far more beneficial than anyone had ever thought, even just, 10 years ago. It's really something that people need to be incorporating some kind of strength training into their daily routine.
Yeah, those injuries that people get so scared about, especially the older generation, are because you're just not moving properly. If you can learn how to manage and carry that load properly, then a deadlift is not inherently dangerous for your back.
Yeah.
Right? A deadlift is dangerous for your back when you don't know how to brace and you don't know how to engage the correct muscles and you just go try to pick up something heavy from the ground by just grabbing it and standing up. Sure. That's when it's dangerous. But, I always tell people, I'm like, if you're going to get into this, just work with a trainer for, I don't even care, 2 sessions. Just learn how to do those movements. That's what I did with my parents. I had enough time when I was visiting them to take them into the gym twice. And I even said, I'm like, you're going to be tempted to add weight to this.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Let's do this with body weight at the beginning. Then you can add a little bit. Or, go to the cable machines. Those are pretty injury proof.
Yeah.
If you can't move that, you just drop it and it goes back to where it was before. Right. There are ways around all of this.
Yeah. I wonder too if some of this increased focus on maintaining strength as you age has come about in parallel with how we are afforded the ability to be increasingly sedentary if we choose so, right?
Absolutely.
You don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. It gets delivered to your front step, whereas my wife's family is Eastern European and her grandparents aren't alive anymore, but when they were, we would go and visit them in Serbia, and her grandfather at the age of 92 was getting up every morning, walking to the local market, buying fresh produce and carrying them back up the stairs to their condo. Just by nature of the type of lifestyle, they were maintaining that strength that now we're having to encourage people to develop through weight implements. And I'm guessing that a lot of that is the fact that you can sit in one place and have almost all of your needs met on a daily basis, which is incredibly convenient, but also incredibly detrimental.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can sit in your Barca lounger and you can yell at your phone that you want something to eat. Yeah. And that will come to your door, that you don't even have to stand up. You
can log roll to your door and just
That's right. Yeah. You don't have to stand up from your recliner to get that. Yeah. And so, the more innovations we make to make things easier, the harder I think things are actually going to get for us. Absolutely.
You'd commented on the grocery store, and a couple years ago I was at Costco, and I hate Costco. It's amazing, but there is just...
Why do you hate Costco? I love Costco.
There are too many people that make Costco their entire day, and I'm calculated. I'm a heat-seeking missile every aisle. I know
You're
everything.
Not a browser.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I go to Costco, and then I'm like, okay, well, I need gas, and I hate waiting in line because it's 10 cars deep. Anyways, I fill up my vehicle with gas and go to start it, and it doesn't start. I'm like, oh, great. So my car won't turn on. So here I am. I have to push my car out of the gas bar by myself and turn it. And I'm stressed. I'm like, okay, something's wrong with my battery. I take my battery off, take it into Costco, and I'm waiting in line, and I'm having the worst day because now I'm back in Costco. But then I look on my phone, and I've got a message from a lady named Alyssa. And she is asking me questions about the Edmonton Stones of Strength because she's doing an article about our friend David Keown about the Lost Irish Stones. And this was my introduction to you. So I was hoping maybe we can branch into the historical stones because you did such a great job covering them. Your research was there. You talked to Dr. Connor Heffernan, and you really, really dove in and knew what you were talking about.
Was that excitement enough to counterbalance the Costco anger?
That's what I'm trying to get at. Is I was like,
Two thumbs up. That's a big deal.
Went from brutal to so exciting. But what? Obviously, you came from a strength background, but what was your initial? Where did historical stones come in, and what kind of brought you to the adventure of diving into that with David?
Yeah, I mean, so I as I had mentioned, the first like strongman implement I lifted pretty much was a stone. And so I was like, okay, this rules. I like lifting rocks. This is awesome. And that was always of interest, but less so the history of it. I started learning about the history when I was writing the book. And the original draft of the manuscript had like pages and pages on the history of stone lifting. And my husband, in his infinite wisdom, was like, so I get that this is really interesting to you. I don't know how much the average reader is going to care about all of this history. Like, can you condense this a little bit? Fair. And I had heard David's story on Barbend.
Okay.
And I was like, I have to learn more about this guy. And I reached out to him and we did like a pre-interview just so I could find out, is there a story here? And I was like, this is fascinating. Yeah. This is so cool. I've always thought just historical stones are so interesting because you're lifting a piece of history. Like it's not just the strength part of it. It's so much more interesting, compelling to me than lifting a barbell in the gym.
Right.
Is, picking up something that people have been lifting for centuries. Yeah. I just think that's so cool. And I have now kind of gone on to pitch so many different stories about this. I just want to spread the gospel of this everywhere. I think Connor had directed me actually to a story that was, I think maybe at the time it was like, we didn't know if it was a real story or not. It was just called The Stone. It's by Liam Flaherty.
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful story.
And then it was like, oh no, this stone exists. Yeah. This is a real thing. Yeah. Just how cool is that you have this story of this old man going back to lift the stone that he lifted in his childhood to become a man, and then going back as he's about to die to go and try to lift this thing again. Like that's how impactful that piece of earth was to him. I don't know what else in athletics you get to feel that way about.
Yeah. What my biggest takeaway from that short story is that the thought of lifting the stone had kind of been lost to the man as well as to the community. So it was the story of renewal, and it was just so incredibly powerful that story precipitated the renewal of this tradition of strength in Ireland, stone lifting strength in Ireland.
Yeah, it's so incredible. And the more that I learn about the history of it just around the world, the more I want to keep learning about it, and the more I want to keep writing about it. And I would love for somebody to just let me write an entire book about stone lifting around the world, because I would enjoy that.
Please do.
Like, I'm so glad that David wrote something, and I can't wait to read that.
I can't wait for that. It'll be awesome. He just has a magnetism too, as well, to him. And so I'm looking forward to reading his words, because we've spent so much time talking to him and we've met him, and we'll be able to picture his voice on our mind as we read it.
Yeah, he has his own gravitational field. Like he's one of those guys he's the center of attention in the room, not because he's demanding attention, but because he's so interested and engaging and excited that people just gravitate towards him and want to learn more. And I'm sure a big part of it for you to talk to him was the story, but also it being David telling the story.
Yes, exactly. He has such a way with talking about this, and such a deep love and respect for this history and for these stones. And you get that excitement coming out of everything he says. It was such a joy to be able to retell those stories.
Yeah, and it's infiltrated, the conscious of Ireland now through the recent documentary. RTE in Ireland releases one big documentary every year, and in 2025, it was Made of Stone, and it was about David Keown.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think, and then the things like what you guys are doing with creating a history that didn't exist here, I think that's incredibly exciting too, because, we don't really have much of that, right? I don't know how many of us are going to go to that spot with the polar bears and lift
stones.
them.
I love how cool would that be?
I'd like to, but I don't think we're going there. And so creating an accessible culture around it where people can go, oh, okay, this is something I want to try. And now I'm a part of what will become, a history of these stones. That's really special. I dug 2 landscaping stones out of our backyard and put them on the side to lift. I'm like, these are my historical stones now.
Maybe someday.
Like, it's something.
Yeah, I think the accessibility too is a really important thing to touch on because it's such an abstract thing. You need to make sure people understand that the barrier to entry to even try this to see if you're interested is almost zero. And David, you have done such a good job of that through the gathering, which is something you highlighted in your Globe and Mail article about the Edmonton Stones of Strength gathering, where there's weights that are liftable from children all the way up to seasoned strength athletes. It's not a competition. It's a try-it session. People calmly support each other. Like, it's really helped bring a lot of people into our local stone lifting community. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it is because it's such a low barrier to entry. That was something that we wanted, is that if we took any number of our higher end stones, we could plop that in Ireland, Scotland, Iceland, you name the place, and that would be a stone that people would want to go lift because the challenge itself would be lower. So we wanted to have those options. But we also wanted to make it accessible to everybody, where people, like, we have kids come out to our event and brand new athletes. And that's what we want, is we want to expose everyone. And that's why we didn't make it a competition, is we didn't want anybody to beat anyone. It wasn't about that. Is that the point of it with our Northern gathering is to have everyone come out, do the best you can. And everyone is cheering for the person next to them, the person who stepped up there and is brave enough to try this. And we think that that's a really big part. And one of the things we love about the community we have here is it's open to everybody. Those stones are there 24/7, and just go and use them if you want them.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I mean, one of the events that I do every year, and I hope to continue doing it, is why am I forgetting the name of it? But Bex's event here. That's part of the Highland Games.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I've done it at least 3 years in a row. I think this will be my 4th. And yes, there is actually a competition element to this one, and you do get to go to Fee 4 if you've won it. But like, I harbor no illusions of winning it. For me, I want to go back every year and lift those same stones and go, did I get a little bit better? Yeah. The Innis stones, I walk maybe an extra inch every year with them, but that's something. And I know that I've had that growth. I don't really even do dedicated training for it. I just want to go and I want to be with these awesome women who also like to lift rocks and, just like see what we can do with them. And again, like, be a part of kind of creating a new history around this.
Awesome. When you talk about sort of wanting to spread the gospel of stone lifting, I have a bit of a funny story, because you wrote this fantastic article in the Globe and Mail that featured Sarah from the Edmonton Stones of Strength, Sarah Barbeau, who's Stuff Your Cake Hole on Instagram and is one of the grittiest, most incredible lifters. She's one of those people, when they say live your truth, when you see her walking barefoot in the northern woods of Canada in the rain liftings, she's doing that all the time. That's not just for a video. That's who she is. That's where she's happiest.
So authentic to herself.
Yeah, and it featured Bex, and it featured the Edmonton Stones of Strength. And the morning that article came out, my wife was actually on a business trip, and she walks into a fairly high-level sort of executive meeting, and the senior vice president of the company that she works for, everyone's doing introductions, and she says her last name. It was Nisbet. Are you related to those 2 guys who like to lift rocks? And it precipitated this whole discussion in the middle of this boardroom about stone lifting because they had read your article.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
But you had phrased it very perfectly, that sort of in this world of quick fixes and 5-minute ab programs and things like that, this is a historically connected activity that you can get in touch with that really requires a lot of time and dedication. We touched before about you need to have a purpose for your training, for your life. I think the thing about stone lifting is also, and it applies to other strength sports, is also finding purpose in what you're doing. And then this concept came up in your book that was a bit of an aha moment for me about mastery, about this sense of mastery and how it can battle anxiety and depression, and also just helps you with this overall sense of accomplishment. And your first time lifting a stone, right? You couldn't get it up, and then eventually you get it up and you have this like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I just want to do this all the time. We see that with lifters as well. And I think part of it is this sense of mastery that can be developed within a single lifting session. It's not like you need to take weeks, months to add weight to a bar, but you could walk up to a stone at the beginning of a session and not be able to move it. But then because of the combination of the strength and the technique required. By the end, you will have in some ways mastered that lift, and you walk away after an hour of battling this stone with an incredible sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you feel more capable. And when you feel more capable of doing something, that changes, your level of confidence, just how you see yourself. You are somebody who can do something that isn't easy. You are somebody who doesn't give up. You are somebody who sees a challenge and doesn't shy away from it. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And again, I don't malign anyone's type of exercise, but for me, like doing 45 minutes of sitting on a stationary bike in a dark room isn't going to do that for me. Like I'm not going to know, did I do it a little bit harder this week than last week? It's just, that's not it. But if I put even a pound on a lift, or if I move a stone a little further from the ground than I got it last time, that to me is incredibly powerful. That's that sense of accomplishment. That's me walking out of that gym and going, oh, I've worked really hard for this thing and I did it.
Yeah.
And that's the grit that we talked about. That is the ability to kind of stick with something that's hard. That's the ability to fail and not see that as I'm a failure. Yeah. It's the ability to see that as an opportunity to grow and to learn something and to keep pushing forward with something. I'm generally I'm not a fan of talking when it comes to fitness in general about motivation. I think for the most part, it's more about discipline. Are you going to get up because you said you would get up and go and do the thing? However, I do think there is value in having a goal in mind that is related to mastering something. And that can be some motivation in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely it is.
Yeah. And the thing about stone lifting too is that, your ability to master something may not be strength. So you can actually work too on the puzzle side of things, on the technique. And that might have been a limiting factor. And that's something that you can do over the course of an hour. You may not have to add 30 pounds to your max lift. You may just need to have to figure out how that stone needs to be lifted for you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that learning that technique, I do some rock climbing, and one of the great joys for me in that is there's a reason they call, when you're bouldering, there's a reason they call the route a bouldering problem,
right?
Because it is a problem that you then have to solve. You have to use your brain in such a different way to go, okay, well, I can't, if I'm going to grab this thing and then I'm going to go to this thing and you're going to fall off the wall, you're going to smack yourself on the mat, it's going to suck. And then you're going to get back up and you're going to do it again. And you're going to try a different solution this time.
Yeah, it's a different connection with your body almost, right? Because these are such a long, between what you're discussing with bouldering and stone lifting, they're such longer lifts, right? So a deadlift, obviously, you have to be very strong and you have to know your form and you have to brace and have to do all these things, but there's less proprioceptive feedback than there is with a natural stone, for instance, right? Yes. When it gets into your lap, like you said, Dale, you may have to spin it, you may have to set it up and do all these things. And because of that feedback loop, I think it definitely is more rewarding, at least for me, right? And like you'd mentioned, Alyssa, is if maybe the task 1 week is just to break it off the ground, and then you come back a month later and, oh man, I got it in my lap. Okay, but I struggled doing this. Now, is that because I lack the grit or the technique? And there's more homework. And when you're there, again, also you'd mentioned, Dale, is you can progress drastically within an hour, right? If that 300-pound deadlift is not coming off the ground for you that session, it's not likely that you're going to go back and maybe you're going to cue your abs a bit better and come back and it's going to fly off the ground. It's possible, but not likely. But with the stone, if you struggle getting it up your mid shin, it's very possible it's because you need to flip it a little bit more, and you can make incremental gains in one session by cracking the code of that stone for you. And I think that is a very rewarding thing. At least for me it is. Yeah. And I think you feel the same. And I think that's a common trend in natural stone lifting.
And you can try and fail multiple times, but still have enough strength, right? You're not fully exerting yourself. And a great example for us always comes up as our friend Keith Surrett, when he went over to lift the Liam O'Flaherty stone or the Mulan. He also had pneumonia. But
he was sick.
He was very sick. Oh, he was
so gross.
Terrible. Oh my gosh. Tried on his 12th attempt, he was able to get that stone up. It took him 12 attempts. And so when you're talking about grit, and determination. Had he lacked that, he would have come home from Ireland incredibly disappointed that he didn't get this lift. And he had every excuse in the world to be made. He could barely even talk, but he wasn't going to allow himself to leave that island without actually getting that lift. And he was able to do so. And I don't, his strength didn't increase over the course of those multiple attempts. It was that he was figuring out the puzzle. And to your point about bouldering, that's why we see a lot of rock climbers that are incredibly good stone lifters, because they're so efficient at solving the puzzle. They don't need to have more strength.
Yeah. It kind of goes against that whole idea that people used to have of like, people who do strength sports are just like brainless meatheads, for sure. Right? Yeah. It's like, well, actually, no, we have to really think about this.
Yeah.
There's some very, very intelligent people. Like some of our buddies that we train with, they are just brilliant people. And to bring it's one thing to just go and do the work, but when you are trying to figure out and process, how can I do this better, more efficiently? Okay, I struggled here. There's a lot of analytics involved in it. And for me, that's one of the things that I find so fun about this entire adventure of strength is how can I come at this from maybe a different angle? Right. If you look at powerlifting's been around quite some time. There are a lot of hard and fast rules when it comes to powerlifting, the structure, the percentages, the sets, the reps, and all that. Stone lifting doesn't necessarily have that. Now, if you go to basque lifting, sure, they've been doing it 150 years. They are dialed. They're incredible. But a lot of this stuff, even though they've been doing it a long time, there's no real rules to it. And so it's quite fun the process of analyzing, okay, well, what works for you might not work for me. And that personal journey of being able to advance your own strength in ways that works for you it's really rewarding, and it's really fun too.
Yeah. And I think, you learn things from doing this that you take outside into the rest of your life as well, right? Like as I mentioned, I was not somebody who had any interest in continuing to try something that I thought I was going to fail at for a very, very long time. And then when I started doing this and I started going, oh, you can fail, you can learn from that, and then you can do better next time. It has seeped into every other aspect of my life, from, work to just being a parent to even just other sports that I do, where I actually want to do the thing that's hard. I want to do the thing that I've never done before and try to figure it out.
Yeah. Fortifies your resolve. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about there's a number of things when you did a deep dive in historical stone lifting that didn't make it past the cutting room floor. Were there any things that came up that you were just like, I want so badly to fit this into the book, but there just isn't space or doesn't fit the overall narrative arc that you'd like to share with us?
Oh gosh, in general, like in the book, it's just overall, not just the stones?
things specific to historical stones, like the discussions you had with Connor Heffernan, or different cultures that you researched that really struck you that you were hoping to make into the book that just couldn't quite fit.
I wanted more about the Basque stone lifting in there. I became incredibly fascinated with the stones in Iceland. The ones that the series of stones that you could lift to determine your role on a fishing boat.
Yeah, Dritvik, we were there. Yeah.
My younger daughter has a friend whose parents are Icelandic, and they're their first generation living here. And every time I talk to them, I think they will probably start shying away from me now. I'm like, let me tell you about these stones that people would have to work on fishing boats. And I'm like, okay, I guess you want to talk to us about this again? Like, we don't have any new information for you. Because I don't know. I think all that is fascinating. I loved talking to this was after the fact that I spoke to David, but learning about there being womanhood stones is obviously incredibly interesting for me. I wanted to dig more into that very first stone, the stone of, I don't know if it's Bibon or that very first stone that we know about. That's like carved his name into it. It's like the Instagram caption of, thousands of years ago. It's like, I did this. Look, I was here.
Our last episode, we talked to Tom Billinge, who has been there, placed his hands. He's part Greek, and he did a deep dive into Greek stone lifting history, and he uncovered. So there's the Bibon stone, but there's also two other stones. There's the throwing stone of Cenereus and the Eumastus stone. And the throwing stone of Cenereus was locked away in a museum storeroom, and he researched and found this thing and was able to go and be the first person who would consider himself a stone lifter to touch that stone in over 2,000 years. It's just
so isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So cool.
Like stone lifting, of course, David Keown is Indiana Stones. And I might add, this is a little known stone lore, but I actually gave him that nickname. He used to be called the Irish Move Athlete, and he had this post. I was really enamored with his journey, and we were, talking over Instagram, and he found another stone. I'm like, Indiana Stone strikes again. And then the next day he was and forever will be Indiana Stones. And so had I not said it, 1,000 other people would have, but so I giggle every time I see it.
I'm pretty sure that his nickname is like the reason that I got an instant response to my pitch about him.
It's a good name. It's a good handle.
But stone lifting provides people that ability to go on these adventures, these almost archaeological pilgrimages that I think, you talked about how during COVID and after having your daughters, you got very encouraged to take on strength sports. And I think, a part of that as a parent is it gives you an opportunity to exert control over one part of your day. You can just, you're doing so many things for other people that this is the thing you can do every day for yourself. And something I think that stone lifting adds into the mix is the ability to pair that physical pursuit with adventure.
Absolutely. I mean, my daughters will be like out on a hike and they'll see something and be like, do you think you could lift that, mommy? And I'm like, do I? I thought you'd never ask. Let's give it a, they don't, and for what it's worth, like they don't ask my husband that.
Right.
They're not like, oh, daddy, can you lift that? It's like, they ask me. We were, over the break, we had a pool, access to a pool, and my husband was swimming, and my younger daughter was like, Daddy's muscles are big, but I think mommy's muscles are stronger.
Awesome.
I don't know how often you get that with kids, especially like little girls being able to say that about their mom and knowing like this is like the female figure in my life that is the most influential. Cares about strength more than anything else. Like that's the thing that she values rather than thinness or whatever. Like that's the important thing. I want them to grow up with that.
In your book, you'd also mentioned about one of your daughter's responses. I think it was you pulled the truck, and she said something like, "That's nice, mommy.
Can we go to the park?"
Yeah, that's right. And
kids are brutally honest, so they're being honest with you. They're not gassing you up.
And I had a moment.
That's exactly right.
I had a moment like that after 2 years ago at our northern gathering, where there's the Agalia stone that's 380 pounds, and I attempted to shoulder it, and I got it just like one hike away, and I gassed out, and I couldn't get it. Anyways, my kids are there, and I get home, and I said, "Oh, thanks guys for coming today." And Declan, my 5-year-old, looks up from whatever toy he's playing with. He goes, "Guess you weren't the strongest today, huh, Dad?" And then goes back to what he's doing. Like, yeah, that's fair enough, buddy. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's interesting. Something you mentioned there too is about, it's for women. It's not just about being thin. It's about being healthy. It's about being strong. That was a very important point that I took away, and many people took away from our conversation with Sandra Bradley, who is one of the strongest women to ever live, is an incredible person. She's just like, she's one of my heroes. She's such an amazing advocate for stone lifting, and she does so on this world stage that she now has. Like when she's commentating, she really helps to encourage people to lift stones with respect to whatever you want. They're trained stones, but make sure you're respectful historical stones. But she had said she got into strength sports because of, she wanted to look a certain way, but then she started to realize it feels really good to be strong. And then she became really strong. And it's awesome to see that it's a long ways off, but there's a cultural shift towards acceptance to just allow people to be who they want to be and be the best version of themselves in whatever direction they choose to take their life. You do not have to fit a certain mold or a certain expectation. If you want to be the strongest person in the world, do whatever you can to meet that goal, and everyone else should be celebrating it.
Yeah, 100%. And so many of the women I spoke to for my book had a similar story of like, they got into just lifting weights as a way to change how their body looked. And then we're suddenly like, oh, I'm really capable of something here. I can do a lot with this. It feels good to be able to move this just for the sake of moving it, not because it's going to, make me fit into a size smaller of my jeans. Right. And that's, I think we're also thankfully now in a era where we're celebrating muscle on women a little bit more than we used to.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome, because that will get more women into strength training if we are not celebrating, a waif thin body over everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You make a comment in the book about sometimes, and I've heard this from my wife in the past, where I just don't want to get too bulky. right, is the concept. Man, I wish it was easy to just get too bulky.
Yeah, I'm so bulky right now.
That is one of, oh God, that is a hill. I will die on that hill and the hill about toning, which is not a real thing. But the bulky one, it's like you see how many, I want to say to women, like, how many skinny, scrawny men do you see in the gym desperately trying to put on muscle? And it's so hard for them. Like, what makes you think you're going to walk in, like, sniff a dumbbell and get huge? It's not going to happen. There's so many things there's so many steps that you have to take to put on muscle. And it's not just, I picked up a 5-pound dumbbell instead of a 2-pound dumbbell.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Yeah,
absolutely. It is quite funny.
Yeah. On the women in strength sports too, something that has been so remarkable in just the past couple of years in the stone lifting world is we are now seeing women from the strongman community migrate into stone lifting and do incredible things. And we have people like Sandra Bradley going around, being the first full Sturker lifter at Dritvik. Hannah Lindsay going and absolutely crushing a full pen lap with the Husafel stone. Like, it's been unbelievable. And at this point, it's not about whether or not it's a man or a woman's lifting stone. It's a lifting stone. And if you can lift it, do it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. It's just, I think we're removing a lot of the gender barriers to all of this, and that's incredible.
Stone doesn't care, so I don't think anyone else should. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, we know you got to head out pretty quick here, so we'll wrap things up. We just wanted to thank you so much for joining us in the podcast, for the light you've shown on stone lifting, the light you've given us for our Edmonton Stones of Strength. It's awesome. It's really cool to see these stories, these people, and everything at such a high level. And so thank you for your part in all of that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you the first time for the article, and it's been wonderful to talk to you for longer now.
So after you, I'm sorry to say, lose to your daughter in a pull-up competition, what else is on the horizon for you as far as maybe new publications coming out or competitions or new endeavors?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to compete this year again outside of Bex's event. I'm currently ghostwriting a book for somebody in our community that I can't
Sure, of course, don't.
So people know about it, but I can't super announce it. But it'll be in the next couple of months, I guess. Once we can show the cover, it'll be a bigger announcement. But it's been a really, really exciting ride, and I'm really proud of what we've done so far.
Awesome. Is that in the stone lifting community or strength community, or can you not?
Strongman.
Okay, awesome. Looking forward to this. Make sure to let us know and we can help put the word out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will.
So where can everybody find you?
I am just at Alyssa Ages pretty much everywhere. So that's me on Instagram. That is my website. I don't know what other platforms are there. I guess like LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose that's one of them.
I don't know. I'm mostly active on Instagram, so you can find me there. And you can find Secrets of Giants, to the best of my knowledge, anywhere that books are sold.
Everyone, that's your homework. Take it away, read it. You will not regret it.
I actually read this book, and I don't read, and I listened to the audiobook. And it's so nice that you did the audiobook as well, because it's great to hear you actually say a word instead of having someone read it for you. So well done. It was a great book.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time, Alyssa.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please be so kind as to leave the show a review and then follow us over on Instagram at stonesofstrength_podcast.